Hi folks, and welcome to Shit Happens. I know I've been promising this video for quite some time. I just finally decided, you know what, I better do it. And it's a shop tour, a wood shop tour. Now keep in mind, I don't have a dedicated building for this wood shop. I have a 60 by 60 pole barn. 20 foot of that is nothing but lean-to, where the chicken coop is and some other storage for whatever. And I have 3 or 4 rooms also inside this 60 by 60 barn. But about 6 years ago, it was the year after my dad passed away, he had for a long time wanted me to get a wood shop in here. Unfortunately, he never lived to see it, but I did build this in his honor, hence the plaque of my business and LLC above the wood shop. But this wood shop here is, let's see, it's 8 feet tall, 13 feet wide, and 26 feet long. Plenty big enough for my hobby, woodwork, and crafts that I do inside here. And before I get too deep into this video, please understand that there's no sponsorships. I'm not going to talk about any particular power tool because I'm in business with one of them with a free unit or anything like that. I just made up my mind that on this channel I'm not going to do any kind of sponsors for anything. But you will see a variety of tools. I'm not partial to any kind. There's reasons that I bought the tools that I did. You'll see many different manufacturers here throughout this little tour that I'm going to give. As I mentioned before, this is a dedicated wood shop. It's not cluttered with anything other than woodworking and craft supplies. And I'm fortunate, as I mentioned earlier, to have this 60 by 60 pole barn because I do have areas that I can store wood. I don't have to clutter it in here. This is strictly for woodworking, not for storage. Even though there is a little pile of cedar down here, but that's coming up in a project soon. But up above here, on this ceiling, or up above that, I have storage for dried wood that's ready to be milled. It's well within the moisture content of working with it. And out in the lean-to, I have racks for storage of wood that we've milled over at the sawmill, simply to air dry over the next few years or however long it's going to take. Typically when you air dry wood, it's 1 year per inch thickness. And I want to continue cleaning up that lean-to and adding additional storage for wood that we're going to mill down the road here. I suppose we can start almost in the center of the shop here. And this is really the heartbeat of a wood shop. I mean, not just mine, but many consider the table saw the focal point, starting point, the heartbeat of the wood shop. This is used for just about everything. What I decided to go with was a Pro Shop, a Jet. It's a 10-inch blade. And keep in mind, I only have 120 service out here. I know there's other larger pieces of equipment, even Jet, that comes in 240. I just don't have that service in the barn. So everything in here I had to make sure it runs on 120. And while I sometimes don't buy top of the line for products, if I have something that I need maybe once or twice a year that just fills a little gap, I'm going to go to Harbor Freight, Lowe's or Menards and get the cheapest I can. But there's certain tools that I have in here, power tools, that I simply wasn't going to be cheap on. It's the old adage, you get what you pay for. And the table saw isn't anything I wanted to skimp on. This was about as top of the line as I could find at my local woodcraft store for $120. Now there might have been a couple fancier models, but this fits the bill for my uses in here. I suppose we'll just pick a spot, now that we've covered the table saw here, and just work our way around. Behind me here is just a work countertop with storage for nail guns, just some hand tools. I'll set a pegboard up there, and as you continue down, just more storage area. And then towards this end down here, I have a variety of sanders. And I think all these came from Menards or Harbor Freight. They're certainly not top-end sanders by any stretch of the means, but for what I do in here, each one of those has their own place, and they do the job. Over in the corner here is where I keep my drill press. This is a Craftsman 3/4 horse, and I really wasn't even going to get a drill press to put in here originally. It was way down the road on my wish list. But a local Sears store closed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago maybe. And they had this on clearance. I went a week later, they dropped it another $50. A week later, another $50, and so on until I'm like, this is too good to pass up. That's why it's sitting in here. And it comes in handy a lot more than I thought it would. Now down at this end of the shop here, you'll notice this kind of open space. There's a reason this is an open space. I mean, there's some storage cabinets here, but on my wish list here soon is going to be a full-size bandsaw. And I just wanted to keep this clutter-free to have a home for that when I do get it. So right in here, full-size bandsaw. I have a smaller one down there that we'll get to in a minute. Now this section here is my miter station, where I can put boards up here up to 9 feet. Well, I can get a 9-foot cut. I can put longer boards, but my maximum distance is about 9 feet to make a cut. Now there is on occasion I get longer boards that I need to cut, and I'll go out to my little main work area there where I got another miter station that it's pretty much endless. I can cut about any length board I want to. But this track system is super nice to have. When you're cutting multiple boards or even a single board, you can dial this in and set it, and it's perfectly measured right to the curve for this blade. And then I got to stop at that end if I need to cut multiple boards. This whole system here was worth every penny installing. It just saves a ton of time and it keeps things accurate. Above me here, all the shelving and all these containers are craft material, making crafts. And while I love woodworking, I can tell you the crafts sell, small crafts. People just eat them up. I know my wife at work has sold many items through the years that I've made in the craft department. And I enjoy playing around with things, especially making Halloween decorations. I'm out here for a month in September into October just making goofy Halloween decorations. So that's mainly what this all is. It's just craft supplies. Before we go any further, I want to stop here and just explain something. These boxes that I have, these are molds that I made using real morel mushrooms. Yep, I sacrificed them to the mold gods to make some molds for pouring resin morel mushrooms. And I did a few other mushrooms too. And when you get them painted up, they're about as real can get as far as looks. And they do go into crafts project pretty cool, especially for outdoorsmen or mushroom hunters. Here's a couple finished ones. These were cast from real mushrooms. Before we get to that end of the wood shop, in the center here, just past the table saw, I do have a jet joiner. And for squaring up wood and all the glue ups I do and working with just rough sawn lumber, this is almost a must as well. I mean, this was my second purchase right after the table saw, and then a planer after that. But having this joiner, in my opinion, it was a needed item in this wood shop. Next to it here is a work table that I have. I built this all out of 2x4s. I can't even fathom the cost of making this now, going to get the 2x4s. I think there was 17 2x4s glued together just for the top. All the base frames were made in 2x4s glued together to make them 4x4s. I have dog holes in here with clamps that I can secure pieces when I'm using my planers, my hand planers, or sanding. But this gets used for just about every project that I make in here, this work table. I do run a dehumidifier in here 24/7. I like to keep it right at around 40 to 47% in here year round. And further down the line here, we have a DeWalt scroll saw. This is kind of more Lori's have fun tool out here. She's just getting into certain projects. I've used it in the past for a variety of things, but I know there's some really cool things you can do with that, and I'm glad it's in the shop, and I'm glad we bought it. And then next to that is our DeWalt planer, which is on a stand with wheels. Usually I move this out to the bay door when I'm running wood. You like my discharge hose here to shoot it out a ways. I should also probably mention that along with that bandsaw, one thing that I need to get installed in here is a dust collection system that I can run to each one of these major power tools. And the system itself, I'll go through the wall and have that outside underneath the steps to get it out of the way. But here in the next year or so, there will be a dust collection system added to this, along with probably maybe an air purifier or cleaner up there in the corner. But I got to get away from the dust, that's for sure. When I did construct this shop, I made sure that I had at least a 6-foot opening. That's why I put these double doors in here. This one here stays shut most of the time, but I'm glad I made the decision to do this for bringing in and taking out large projects. It was one of the better decisions I've made in my life when building things is to add these double doors. It's already paid for itself a few times. And that brings us to the clamp corner. You can never have enough clamps. There has been times working on projects that I've used every one of these Bessie clamps and some of these smaller bar clamps as well. It looks like a lot. I know they're expensive, but I think I could use a few more. At this end of the shop is just storage for various cans of lacquer, thinner, stains, poly. I have some tape up there. Just a variety of things that are used for the finishing end of products. I also have throughout the wood shop here hearing protection and about every 4 feet a pair of safety glasses. I'm really trying to get cognizant of wearing these all the time when I'm in the shop because I don't want to lose my sight. My hearing is already going. I don't want to lose my sight, so that's a constant reminder throughout the shop. Put those safety glasses on. This router table, which is a Craig model, and I think there's a Porter cable router underneath there. I have 5 or 6 routers, every one's a different brand, but I believe there's a Porter cable underneath this particular unit. This is really nice to have. Some of the projects I do have to freehand or make a jig for, but for 80% of the things I do, I use this table. I don't know what I'd do without it. And then next to that there is a Jet 1632 drum sander. I sand a lot of projects, most woodworkers do, it's part of it, and while I do have some orbital sanders, palm sanders, if I'm doing big projects, it's really nice to run them through that drum sander. It makes quick work of things. And it's open on one end. You can do up to 32-inch wide boards. You just got to do a 16-inch pass, flip it, and do the other side. That was kind of on the wish list. They were running a sale on them, and I bought it. And I don't use it all the time, but on larger projects, it sure comes in handy and saves a ton of time for sanding. And that brings us to the last corner of the shop here. I just got a little box there of sharpened pencils. There's some squares, T-squares. I got some jigs made up. This one here is for doing beveled legs, a couple other little jigs. And then the little Raycon bandsaw that I was talking about earlier. I want to get a full-size one for sure, but this little one has its place as well, and I've used it quite a bit. And this wood shop still is a work in progress. Every year I'm adding more shelves. There's still more space to utilize that I'm not maximizing. Underneath here I can put a bunch of storage drawers like I did down at this end. Here's another scrap bin here. This is all hardwoods from projects left over, but they're just too nice of pieces as far as the grain, the swirl, the pattern in them. There's some tiger stripe in them. I just like saving those for, well, you never know. And another one of the best investments I ever made was the Craig system, the pocket hole system. Now, there's some fancier woodworking pieces that I do that's all mortise and tenon, it's glue ups. There isn't any pocket holes in them. But for a lot of projects, that's my go-to for securing pieces together. They're solid, it's easy to use, very versatile. So I got a whole collection of Craig pocket hole system components in the shop here. And there you have it. There's my wood shop in a pole barn. I know this video is probably getting a little long. I don't imagine, unless you're a woodworker or interested in setting something like this up, that you even made it this far into the video. But if you did, I sincerely appreciate you joining me here today on Chick Happens. Maybe you can learn from this, build some ideas, or even offer suggestions for me down in the comments of what I could add in here. I'd love to hear them. But until next time, cheers.